So the festive period is quite a triggering time for people in recovery, especially in early recovery. So I suppose first of all, what is a trigger? So triggers are anything that will make you want to use drink or drugs. They come in two forms. First of all is anything that directly reminds you of that drug, such as seeing people use alcohol or drugs. And second type of trigger would be an emotional trigger, so something that stresses you out, makes you feel disturbed in some way that would then lead you to drink or use drugs as a way of self-medicating. So these triggers are more likely during the festive period than they would be ordinarily, because of course, especially in the West, alcohol use is rife, and especially so in the festive period. So how can you deal with that? Well, first of all, what different kinds of situations are going to affect you. So there's family dynamics, there's celebrations and parties, and there's just general stress. So with the celebrations, parties and so on that you'll inevitably encounter at the festive period, it's really a case of core beliefs. You know, what are you saying to yourself? Probably things like, they're having a good time, why can't I? And so on. To which you might answer, well, am I really in the same situation that they are? If you've got a history of alcohol and substance use, heavy alcohol and substance use, then arguably you're not in the same boat as other people. They can afford to drink and perhaps even use drugs without too many consequences. But if you're honest with yourself, you may find that's not the case with you. And so how are you going to deal with that? Well, inevitably you may have to go to get-togethers, family get-togethers and things like that where there's alcohol. Well, have you got a plan B? Can you get out of that situation if you have to? Can you bookend it, which is a tool we use in recovery, where we phone somebody that is also in recovery before and after the event. That kind of helps to make us accountable. So we can kind of phone in and say, yep, I got through that and I didn't take a drink. That helps a lot. With general stress, festive period is quite a stressful time. So this is especially true for middle-aged people that got kids and parents to deal with at Christmas. So you're running around having to get Christmas presents for the kids, having to make sure your grandparents see the grandkids and all those sorts of things. That can be quite stressful if you're in early recovery. So one of the things you can do there is to have a morning and evening ritual. So for example, doing readings, literature from the 12-step fellowships, other spiritual literature that you can read, have some meditation practice using an app or something like that, breath work, these types of things that you can do in the morning and the evening. In a sense, it's you time, so it's time for you to wind down and get yourself centered. And indeed, you can split off at any time during the day, perhaps for 10 minutes, to do something like that. Breath work and things like that helps to ramp down the parasympathetic nervous system, to ramp down the sympathetic nervous system to increase the action of the parasympathetic nervous system. So, in other words, calm down your fight-flight response and upregulate your rest-digest response. So common apps that you could look for on YouTube along those lines would be, say, Wim Hof's breathing method, which is very popular at the moment. And in 10 minutes you can follow his breathing routine and get calm and centered. So then another set of triggers that would affect probably mostly younger people would be the family dynamics and the stress of having to deal with annoying siblings, critical, expectant parents and those types of things. And the trick there, I think, is to try and open the family system up a bit. Sometimes families that have a bit of dysfunction in them tend to be what we call closed systems. So there's not a lot of room for outside influence to come in. So you want to open up that family system and reach out to constructive friends or people in recovery, perhaps phone calls to your friends who are supportive of you. Perhaps you can go on to Zoom meetings at 12-step groups like AA and NA, or even Smart Recovery, or indeed meet to go on walks and things like that with friends to get yourself out of that family environment. So in sum, there are things that you can do at the festive period that will replace or substitute the usual drinking activities. You might go to midnight mass or something. If you're not religious, you might arrange a New Year hike or even a sea swim. You know, I know a bunch of guys that swim in the sea every New Year's Day. Now, if cold water swimming isn't your thing, then find something else that is, maybe a hike or something like that.